Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Didye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 31, Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. Just to recap our discussion yesterday, I know it went a little bit off this topic, but it was still a valid topic. About when Anima Mataji asked about the ladies getting dressed up versus chastity. So I was thinking about that answer that I gave. Whatever I said was okay, but it was not complete. So later on I was thinking chastity does not mean that one should not dress up properly. Where does it say that one has to look ugly to prove the chastity? It doesn't mean that. It just, I mean, dress up nicely. Yeah, after all, we are gonna be like the lady is supposed to be chaste to their husbands and to Krishna also. Krishna, ultimately, we are pleasing Krishna, trying to please Krishna. And the men, they're supposed to be faithful to their wives and to Krishna. And at the same time, if somebody is dressed very nicely, like a chaste lady, like an ideal that we read in Prabhupada's books and see very nice Matajis also, like nice sari and pallu and this and that. But that still doesn't mean they're chaste. That does not mean that. So that's always inside our heart, whatever we are trying to do. And we cannot hide it from Krishna. That's for sure. So it doesn't mean we have to look completely not taken care of and then we are chaste. No, where does it say that? So it just our inner consciousness has to be properly chaste. That's more important. Text number 39. Sangam na kuryat paramadasu jata yogasya param paramarukshu matsevya pratilabdhatma labho vadantiya niryadvaramasya. One who aspires to reach the culmination of yoga and has realized itself by rendering service unto me should never associate with an attractive woman, for such a woman is declared in the scripture to be the gateway to hell for the advancing devotee. Again, it goes conversely also for a lady who's aspiring or who's making progress should not associate. No, association or associate with the opposite sex. But association is different. Let's see what Prabhupada says. The culmination of yoga is full Krishna consciousness. This is affirmed in Bhagavad Gita. A person who is always thinking of Krishna in devotion is the topmost of all yogis. And in the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also stated that when one becomes freed from material contamination by rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at that time understand the science of God. So when one becomes freed from material contamination by rendering devotion service, he at that time can understand the science of God. So only he can understand. Here the word pratilabdhatma labha occurs. Atma means self and labha means gain. Generally, conditioned souls have lost their Atma or self, but those who are transcendentalists have realized the self. It is directed that such a self-realized soul who aspires to the topmost platform of yogic perfection should not associate with young women. In the modern age, however, there's so many rascals who recommend that while one has genitals, he should enjoy women as much as he likes, and at the same time he can become a yogi. In no standard yoga system is association of women accepted. It is clearly stated here that the association of women is a gateway to hellish life. Or actually it means the association of opposite sex. The association of women is very much restricted in the Vedic civilization. Out of the 4 divisions, the brahmachari, vanprastha and sannyasi, 3 orders are strictly prohibited from the association of women. Only the grihasthas or householders are given license to have an intimate relationship with the women, and that relationship is also restricted for begetting nice children. If, however, one wants to stick to continued existence in the material world, he may indulge in female association unrestrictedly. So, again, what is the association that Prabhupada has explained previously or different places? Association means by which we become affected. There could be hundreds of people of opposite sex working in the office, or we meet at the temple or in the market, or could be our relatives. But that doesn't mean we are associating with everybody. So otherwise the world cannot go on if we maybe just put barriers all over. Because ultimately, if it's in the mind, in the consciousness of a person to enjoy the opposite sex, then even if physically association is not there, he can still do that in the mind. And he might do that more rigorously than if the person is right in front. See, the point is, yes, it's like Prabhupada said, given the intimate relationship with the woman. First of all, it's not the opposite sex that's a problem. It's our consciousness that's a problem. For example, I think I have given this example earlier, but let's analyze this situation again from a male perspective. Suppose there is a very, very beautiful girl, suppose 25, 26 years old. And she has a child, 3, 4 years old. She got married early and then she has a child. Now, is that lady, although she's very pretty, very beautiful, is that lady an object of exploitation or wrong enjoyment, or an object of even thinking wrongly for kids of her son's age? The kids like 3, 4, 5, maybe 10, 12 years old. No, because they would look up at her like a mother. And now let's look at that lady's brothers and brothers' friends. So even that, although they might be a little older or younger than that lady, but we won't look at her in the wrong way. Hopefully not. I mean, there are all kinds of perverts around, but most probably not. They will be more in a protective way looking at her. And then that lady's parents, father, and the people of father's age, they won't be looking at her in the wrong way, or even thinking of her in the wrong way. And what to speak of grandfather and people of that age. So there would be only a selected few in a particular age group. If she is 25, maybe 20 to say 30, 35-year-old people would be looking at her with the wrong intentions. So is the body of that lady something we should avoid, or because that body is the same for other age groups as well. They are not getting agitated or looking at her or having wrong intentions for her. Or it's a consciousness of particular set of people which is wrong. So definitely it's not the body of that lady, it's a consciousness of people. So obviously I'm not saying that dressing up wrongly is the right way, no. But it's a consciousness of a particular set of people. That is wrong. And now coming to spiritual circles or the people who are trying to be spiritual just like us. Our consciousness is not verified yet, obviously not. And everybody is at different level of consciousness. Everybody, even among us, or if you look at like microcosm and macrocosm. So if this group has a different set of consciousness, so definitely all over the world devotees will be having different level of consciousness. So if a person, if a man, devotee, male devotee, is speaking with female devotees, maybe his consciousness is not bad, but if I look at them talking to each other, I will look at them according to my consciousness, according to my sanskaras. And if I get attracted towards women in a wrong way, I will think that person is also getting attracted to women in a wrong way. Although he might be just talking, or they might be just talking to each other and trying to help each other out. Who knows? And then the ladies who are associated with that lady, they might think, oh, she is getting attracted to him, or she is flirting, or she is doing whatever. Maybe the lady in question has no such intentions at all, not even remotely. But maybe there could be, I mean, I'm not saying anything can happen. But we always look at things from our perspective. Always. This is what scriptures also say, Atmavat manyate jagat. Means I look at things according to my perspective and I think this is the right way. See, all of us, we are in the material world. We have a relative mentality, relative consciousness. That's why this is a relative world. It's not an absolute world. Only the spiritual world is absolute. Absolute means everything on the transcendental level. Here everything is relative. Relative in the sense, everybody will look at things differently. And everybody will try to justify their viewpoint. If I'm wearing a red color eyeglasses, I'll see everything red. If I'm wearing a green colored eyeglasses, I'll see everything green. From my perspective, I'm correct, yeah. But it's only a relative perspective. It's not absolute perspective. So from that perspective, we have to understand that I could be wrong as well. Although I saw everything red, but everything might not be red. It is quite possible. And because in the material we all are in the material world, we all have some kind of envy, maybe higher or lower degree in our heart. We all have different consciousness, different sanskaras. So we judge differently. But so Just like the other day, Prabhu asked, what if we commit offense in the mind? But this offense, when we commit in the mind, it is highly possible that it will come out in the form of words or action. Then it becomes a big offense. It becomes a big offense. Just because I saw something or I perceived something according to my senses, according to my consciousness. I'm not saying what Prabhupada is saying is wrong. No, I'm not saying that. Prabhupada is saying everything on an absolute level. So, like, one has to be very, very careful when dealing with opposite sex. Very, very important. But everybody is dealing with opposite sex cannot be judged from the same point of view. So we just got to be careful in dealing and in judging as well. Text 40. Yo payati shanarmaya yoshideva vinirmita tamyikshetatmano mrityum trinah kupam ivavritam. The woman created by the Lord is a representation of Maya, and one who associates with such Maya by accepting services must certainly know that this is the way of death, just like a blind well covered with grass. Sometimes it happens that a rejected well is covered by grass, and an unwary traveler who does not know of the existence of the well falls down, and his death is assured. Similarly, association with the woman begins when one accepts services from her, because woman is especially created by the Lord to give service to man. By accepting her service, a man is entrapped. If he is not intelligent enough to know that she is the gateway to hellish life, he may indulge in her association very liberally. This is restricted for those who aspire to ascend to the transcendental platform. Even 50 years ago in Hindu society, such association was restricted. A wife could not see her husband during the daytime. Householders even had different residential quarters. The internal quarters of a residential house were for the women, and the external quarters were for the men. Acceptance of service rendered by women may appear very pleasing, but one should be very cautious in accepting such service, because it is clearly said that woman is gateway to death or forgetfulness of one's self. She blocks the path of spiritual realization. I'm sorry, Matajis. This is how Prabhupada is explaining, and I know it's very heavy language. But this is what Lord Kapil Dev is speaking. And he is speaking to his mother, Devhuti. He is telling his mother all these things. So the point is, there should be restrictive mingling of opposite sexes. It's also mentioned in Bhagavatam that men are like butter and women like fire, and when they come together, butter is definitely going to melt. The point is, if we want to make progress spiritually, we have to limit association or have a restricted association with women. But again, everybody is on a different platform. We are not on the level of Prabhupada, where Prabhupada could be with his lady disciples like Govinda Mataji and Malti Mataji, and they would even drive Prabhupada in the car. They would be the drivers, and Prabhupada would be sitting with them alone in the car, go to different places. But that's Prabhupada. But at the same time, the society being the way it is, 50 years ago, the why even in Hindu society or in Islamic society, the ladies would be inside in the inside quarters and men could be outside. But now it's changed. Now it is completely changed. Men and women, they're working together in the same offices. They're studying together in the classes, in college or in schools. They're sharing the cabs. They're traveling together. So in this day and age, we cannot have the same restrictions or same criteria that was 50 or whatever, whenever this Bhagavatam was written, this canto, maybe another 100 years ago. So we cannot have the same set of rules. The times have changed. Only thing we can do is make sure that our consciousness is clean. That's all. And then, with the knowledge that Prabhupada has given us, especially from Bhagavad Gita beginning, that we are not these bodies, we are spirit souls. Of course, we are not at that level of realization, we just know theoretically. But if we come to the right understanding, then we'll definitely not have attraction towards the opposite sex. Just like Prabhupada had told this story many times. There was a king, he went to the forest for hunting. And he got thirsty during hunting. And then he saw a hut, an ashram over there. And he went to that hut and knocked at the door, looking for some water to drink. And a beautiful girl, beautiful lady, showed up with water. So King just had the water, quenched his thirst, but then he got attracted to this lady. Of course, kings, Kshatriyas means in the mode of passion, so they are always looking for sense enjoyment. So he made the proposal to the lady that I am the king of this country and I'm attracted to you. I want to marry you, come to my kingdom and become my queen. The lady said, well, I live in a hermitage. It's okay, you're the king and you got attracted because king is considered a representative of God. So she said, okay, you're the king, so I cannot say no, but I cannot leave right now. Why don't you come back after 3 days? King said, okay, I can come back. So after 3 days, king went. And meanwhile, what this lady did to give the right perspective to the king. So for 3 days, she took lots of purgatives. Purgatives means which cleanses the body by vomiting and stool, passing the stool excessively. So king came and again he knocked at the door and this lady opened the door. But by now this lady, because of so much of passing of stool and vomiting, she had become very haggardly and kind of dark looking skin and not very attractive, and she didn't keep her hair properly. So the king looked at this lady and he asked, oh, where is that beautiful lady I met 3 days ago? I'm here to take her to my kingdom. That lady said, I'm the same lady. King said, no, you cannot be. That was a very beautiful lady. The lady said, actually, I have separated my beauty from myself. And what she had done, she had kept all this vomit and the stool in a bucket, in a container. King said, what do you mean you have separated your beauty? And she said, yes, I separated my beauty and here is the beauty in this container. And king looked at the container and he started puking. What is this? So then the lady told him, you were attracted to my just the physical, outwardly beauty. And this is what happened. I just took 3 days of purgatives and I passed stool and vomited. And I just kept it in the container. So this is my beauty. That's what you were attracted to. You're not attracted to my real person. So the king understood and he went back. So the point is, when we get attracted to anybody, opposite sex, so basically we get attracted to either the physical beauty or the mental or the intellectual beauty or strength, or the money, financial, or the spiritual advancement of that person. That's all. But the three of them, physical, intellectual, financial, is all temporary. And everybody else can be better than this. And if we are attracted to the spiritual advancement of that person, so our right attitude should be to serve that person. So that he may make advancement by our service in whatever way possible. And service means the way the spiritually advanced person wants us to serve, not the way I want him. I want to serve. No, that is still based on me. No. So by serving him, we will also make spiritual advancement, not by uh, blackmailing him or forcing him to do something that he doesn't want to do. So we have to understand why we are attracted to somebody. And these are the reasons one gets attracted. This is not the right reason. And spiritually, if we want to make advancement, we should serve. If we are really impressed by somebody's spiritual advancement. So if we associate with opposite sex in this way, there won't be any problems. There cannot be. Just like all these lady disciples of Prabhupada, they served him the way Prabhupada wanted. And of course, there was such a huge age difference as well. But still, anybody could have pointed fingers, but Prabhupada was completely transcendental. So we have to understand and we have to deal with opposite sex in this way, in a proper way, not on the bodily level. Understanding this body is what? Just soul, and outside is all earth, water, fire, air, ether. Okay, that earth, water, fire, air, ether has taken different shapes for a male body and a female body and different organs. That's all it is, but it's still made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. Nothing else. And when we get to seventh canto, where Prahlad Maharaj gives his instructions, although he was only a 5-year-old boy, and his instructions are wonderful, and in which he says, the whole world is running crazy about sex life. And this is what this chapter also Lord Kapila talks about. And Prahlad Maharaj compares sex life to what? He says sex life is what? Just rubbing two pieces of skin together. And you think it is something very, very attractive and everybody goes crazy about it by just rubbing the two pieces of skin together. And that is true, that's all it is. So again, by reading Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavatam, chanting and doing our spiritual practices, definitely it's for sure that we develop detachment from all these superfluous things which are not at all important. So that detachment is important. And just like I was listening to just one short interview of Sadhguru, Jaggi Vasudev Sadhguru, what is his name? And he says, these are all frills in our lives. And so much we are attracted by the frills that we forget the skirt. I mean, he just made that comparison. Well, frills mean something. It's there just to make it look good, but it's not that important. What is more important is the real covering or real cloth, not the frill. So we get attracted to all these things. This is the basis of this material world. But as spiritual aspirants, we should be careful, and we should approach the opposite sex with the right understanding, right mood. Not with the exploitative or enjoying mood, just with the mood of service. And in the mood of humility, asking how I can serve to make advancement myself. And at the same time, as I said, the society is different now, so we cannot put so much of restrictions that ladies wear burqas and stay inside quarters and men outside, because the mind is so flickering, it can still get attracted. And it does. It does. So rather we should give the right engagement to the mind. That's the real right way of handling the situation. Text 41. Yam manyate patim mohan manmayam rishabhayatim stritvam stri sangatah prapto vittapati grihapratam. A living entity who, as a result of attachment to a woman in his previous life, has been endowed with the form of a woman, foolishly looks upon Maya in the form of a man, her husband, as a bestower of wealth, progeny, house, and other material assets. From this verse, it appears that a woman is also supposed to have been a man in his or her previous life. And due to his attachment to his wife, he now has the body of a woman. Bhagavad Gita confirms this. A man gets his next life's birth according to what he thinks of at the time of death. If someone is too attached to his wife, naturally he thinks of his wife at the time of death. And in his next life, he takes the body of a woman. Similarly, if a woman thinks of her husband at the time of death, naturally she gets the body of a man in the next life. So that also, of course, this also defunct that idea that 7 lifetimes, men and women, they're gonna have the husband-wife relationship. But regardless, this is what happens. If we are attracted to women's body, women's mannerism, and if you're too attached to our wife, then we can get womanly body next life. There's nothing wrong with womanly body or in a man's body, but this change can happen. In the Hindu scriptures, therefore, women's chastity and devotion to man is greatly emphasized. A woman's attachment to her husband may elevate her to the body of a man in the next life, but a man's attachment to a woman will degrade him. Okay, and in his next life, he will get the body of a woman. So upgrading or degrading of the body, because women are more emotional, and men tend to use their heads more than emotions. And also for certain things, like men can go and take sannyas and they can really do lots of austerities outside and travel and this and that they can do, which women's body is not really practical. So that is why it's considered men's body is better. And also, it will come later on in this chapter. Women's body, more than the body, it's a consciousness in general, not of devotees. In general, women consciousness is she gets too attached to the things, to the household, to the thing. And this is why in the verse it is said, she looks foolishly upon the form of a man, her husband is a bestower of wealth, progeny, house, and other material assets. That's why woman is called Stri. Stri means one who increases her attachment or her things for her use. Maybe for her use or maybe for the use of the family, but she is attached and very protective of the things in general. We're not talking about devotees, devotee ladies. There's a different category. In general, the ladies are like that. And that's where the problem is. Because with that consciousness, it's very difficult to make advancement. But at the same time, in a woman's body, they are more prone to surrender unto spiritual gurus or to spiritual topics. Very much prone to surrender. Men, on the other hand, they are little headstrong, and it takes time for men to surrender because they have their, you can say, their ego is there. So in that respect, women's body is very, very effective or useful to make spiritual advancement. But at the same time, this attachment to the material things that keeps them bound up. A woman's attachment to her husband may elevate her to the body of a man in next life. Okay. We should always remember, as it's stated in Bhagavad Gita, that both the gross and subtle material bodies are dresses. They are the shirt and coat of the living entity. To be either a woman or man only involves one's bodily dress. The soul in nature is actually the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord. Every living entity being classified as energy is supposed to be originally a man or a woman or one who is enjoyed. Every living entity being classified as energy is supposed to be originally a woman or one who is enjoyed. As a soul, we are all Prakriti. We are not Purusha. Body could be different. In the body of a man, there is a greater opportunity to get out of material clutches. There is less opportunity in the body of a woman. In this verse, it is indicated that the body of a man should not be misused through forming an attachment to woman and thus becoming too entangled in material enjoyment, which will result in getting the body of a woman in the next life. A woman is generally fond of household prosperity, ornaments, furniture, and dresses. She is satisfied when the husband supplies all these things sufficiently. The relationship between man and woman is very complicated, but the substance is that one who aspires to ascend to the transcendental stage of spiritual realization should be very careful in accepting the association of a woman. In the stage of Krishna consciousness, however, such restriction of association may be slackened because of a man's and woman's attachment is not to each other, but to Krishna. Then both of them are equally eligible to get out of this material entanglement and reach the abode of Krishna. As it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, anyone who seriously takes to Krishna consciousness, whether in the lowest species of life or a woman or of the less intelligent classes, such as mercantile or laborer class, will go back home, back to Godhead and reach the abode of Krishna. So this is now Prabhupada is talking about the spiritual aspirants. It could be man, woman, they both can make say same or better advancement. A man should not be attached to a woman, nor should a woman be attached to a man. Both man and woman should be attached to the service of the Lord. Then there is a possibility of liberation from material entanglement for both of them. Otherwise, they both can fall down. And like Prabhupada said, the relationship is very complicated. So it just, we got to be careful. That's sum and substance of these verses. So a few more verses, and Lord Kapil Dev really stresses on these topics between man and woman very nicely. So maybe we can discuss more tomorrow. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvatana Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, on this note, in fact, I have two questions. One is, on a mental level, how do we then kind of stop thinking negatively? Of course, in fact, when we speak to devotees, the answer is chant, chant, chant. But we cannot chant every time 24 hours a day. And when we are, let's say, doing something else, that pops up. And there is always this risk that we just now read and we have explained, that if we think in mind, in fact, it comes out. And because of the stage that we are in, at least I am in, like there is 100% possibility that it will come out. So how do we then control such kind of negative seeds from being implanted in the thoughts? Is there a kind of method, Prabhuji? If yes, can you enlighten me?
The best way of chanting is the best way, but along with that, we should understand everybody has good quality. Well, maybe we don't know, we don't look at good qualities, but every devotee and every person, by devotee, every living entity has good qualities. So we should try to look at the good qualities. Not be like a fly who's always sitting at the sore point of the body, but be like a bumblebee, is what Bhagavatam says, who goes and takes the pollen and makes honey. What Prabhupada did, he looked at the spark, tiny spark of good quality in a devotee, and he fanned that. He just didn't even consider the bad qualities. And he fanned those good qualities, sparks, and he made that a full-fledged fire. So if we really look, we don't have to look very hard actually. Every devotee has wonderful qualities. And really, I mean, if you look honestly, they have good qualities. We should just look at the good qualities. Bad qualities, if you want to look at, everybody has bad. Who doesn't have bad qualities? And if people started looking at our bad qualities, then where do we go? It's like Bhagavatam also speaks about that on moon, when we look at moon, what do we look at? The beautiful, bright, shining moon or the dark spots on it? That depends upon what kind of consciousness we have. So look at the good qualities and then we will not even notice the bad qualities.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. I think this moon example actually is very apt. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the
Thank
other
you.
question is, let's say, in fact, in our household and in many of the devotees' household as well, in fact, one husband and wife, they kind of do deity worship at home together. At least in our home we do. And then the wife serves children and husband so well. So, in fact, invariably, in fact, when we are at office, in fact, we keep on thinking about home and wife and children. Of course, not in a kind of sense, provocative sense, but in terms of how, in fact, we have served, how she has served me, or how what we will be, what the family would be doing now, maybe serving deities, etc. So, is this also kind of in a way creating that entanglement? Because the more we spend time together as a family, in fact, there is, and now because we can normally, in fact, it's difficult to have that one trust and all. So eventually, every possibility is there that we might stay in the family. So is this also creating some sort of entanglement when we're thinking that how well they have served us, our spouse, and what they will be doing now? आज क्या भोग लगा रहे होंगे? क्या what all they would be doing at home? Is this also
But
creating
I mean,
entanglement?
if you're not going to think of wife as a devotee, then what else are you going to think of her as? When it's a devotee you're thinking of, and the services that she might be doing. There's what's wrong with that? If you're not going to be attached to devotees, then who else are you going to be attached to? And our as grihasthas, our problem is we look at everybody else as a devotee except our wife or husband. We try to avoid offenses against everybody else except our wife or husband. Wife or husband may be practicing devotee, maybe not. But if Krishna has given us that responsibility of that particular wife or husband, we got to do it nicely. So, I mean, thinking of wife, how she's serving the Lord, what could be wrong with that?
The way they have served the family and all this stuff. And but if you are thinking of that, certainly that's not entanglement.
So, there's nothing wrong. And this is one thing I have seen in American families, devotees or non-devotees, both. And although divorce rate is high, very high here, but in ISKCON, the divorce rate is much higher than even in America. One thing is they really take time to say thank you to each other. They make sure they say thank you to each other. And I love you. Of course, it's a material level, but as a devotee, there's nothing wrong in loving one's wife or husband and expressing it. What's wrong with that? That gives encouragement to the other partner and admiration to the other partner. The partner feels better to do this. I mean, don't we, when we are serving together in a yatra or something, don't we say thank you to each other so many times? So similarly, somehow when it comes to husband-wife relationship, we become very impersonal. We don't even want to take care of thinking, like you saying, thinking, I'll get attached. Well, what's wrong with getting attached to a devotee? Not in a wrong way, right way. And helping, and that person is helping me in making progress spiritually. So what's wrong with me saying thank you to him or her? I heard a very nice lecture from Radhanath Maharaj on this, and I'll post it. It's a beautiful lecture. It's in one of these verses only from, I think, 29th chapter of 3rd canto, Lord Kapila Dev's instructions. And beautifully explained. This is where we are lacking. We actually are problem. Another problem is not I'm criticizing that, but it's how it is set up. We go and listen to lectures from sannyasis and brahmacharis, which they are going to speak from their perspective, from their consciousness, from their realization, which is wonderful. But they are not going to help grihasthas. They're going to say heavily, okay, no association with women. And if a grihastha comes home, no, Prabhuji said, and Maharaj said, no association with women. What is going to happen to the household? So we have to see what part we have to apply on our lives. If as a sannyasi we want to see, then Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he used to live alone in the hut in his ashram. And once one lady came and she made some rice and gave it to Maharaj to eat. And Maharaj just kept it. He was busy in his chanting and bhajan. And after a while, the lady came back and Maharaj was about to eat. Maharaj was not even opening his eyes. So maybe he was blind or he wasn't looking. And lady came back running. Oh, there is a snake, Maharaj, snake on the rice. Don't eat that rice. Don't touch. And Gaur Kishore, you go away from here. All right. The lady said, there's a snake. And Babaji Maharaj, you go away from here. You are more dangerous than the snake. Do we have that kind of mentality? Or does anybody, any brahmachari or any sannyasi in ISKCON has that kind of level of dealing? No, we got to be practical. What instructions to take and to what extent? We got to be practical. Of course, Prabhupada's purpose here says man should not be attached to women, but when he speaks about the devotees, he changes his tone. He talks about devotees differently. So we have to see how to practically apply in our lives. That's all. Nobody is wrong, not women, not men, not brahmacharis, not sannyasis, not grihasthas. Nobody is wrong. And everybody has equal opportunity and equal well, we can say opportunity to make advancement. Everybody has, regardless of ashram or varna or anything. It doesn't matter, regardless of what kind of body one has. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It just, we have to look at everybody in this way.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Very nicely explained. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
I have one small thing which I cannot accept of what you said recently.
Sure.
So you said the brahmacharis and sannyasis, when we hear them, they give us very strictly instructions about not associating with women. I don't think this is true, because I've heard Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he never speaks like that. And there are so many Maharajas, they are very exalted and they seem to understand the position, situation of a householder very well, and then only they give these suggestions. And many of our Maharajas are also probably gone from the stage of a householder to sannyasi. So how can we can say that they don't understand anything? Maybe with brahmacharis who are not so much experienced, but even brahmacharis, there are so many exalted devotees, and I don't see them as small young boys. They are so exalted souls. So they not only preach the message of Krishna's pastimes, but they also have a very good understanding of the human psyche. So this point which you made, I could not really it could not gel with me.
I'm sorry if I meant that every brahmachari and every sannyasi. I'm sorry if I gave that message. But I have listened to some brahmacharis and some sannyasis that way also. I have personally listened. And I recently gave example of Radhanath Maharaj myself. I'll post that lecture. Wonderful lecture for Grihasthas.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
every sannyasi, but I'm sorry if I come out this way.
There are so
Every
many brahmacharis I also have heard. You're right. There are so many of them who give lectures in a very narrow mindset because of their lack of experience. But then, when we refer to brahmacharis and sannyasis in general, especially sannyasis, I feel I have not seen any sannyasi, especially in our movement, who has given some kind of recommendation or suggestions without thought. So I have found most of them to be very, very exalted. Not at our, they have probably crossed our level so many lifetimes ago. So they seem to be understanding our situation so very well. So that is why I thought I should make it a.
No, it's a very valid and very wonderful point. But I have heard differently also from sannyasis also.
Okay.
It just okay. They are speaking from their level of consciousness. I have to see how do I apply it to my life.
Right.
That's it.
Now, even if we heard something like that from a sannyasi, should we consider it to be impractical, or probably we should think that he has more experience than me about life, and he knows better than me. So it should be what he's saying is maybe truth, but maybe I am not able to apply it. So that's okay. Maybe with time I will be able to appreciate whatever suggestions he's giving. But today I should follow whatever my mind and intelligence says. But then we don't have to have a disconnect with what he said.
No, because well, if you read Prabhupada's purports, if you just read one purport in its entirety, then you'll say, oh no, Prabhupada is very heavy about association with women. But then if you go to next one, and then Prabhupada explains completely, then
Right.
we see Prabhupada's point properly. So
Right.
Similarly, other sannyasis, we just have to see how much I can apply to my life. And
Right.
everybody
Exactly.
is at a different level. Everybody is at a
Yeah.
different level.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was also trying to say, because if sometime some sannyasi or maybe have given some instruction to some particular person, and this is made public to all the people, and then we think that, oh, Prabhupada made such a statement against women. So some women come to me and ask why Prabhupada is so much against women. So, but then they don't see the whole context. They just take something out of context, one particular statement from a big purport, and then they start assuming that Prabhupada was against women. But unless you read whatever whole book that Prabhupada has written, it's not possible to understand. So I think it's a matter of looking things in the whole perspective.
True. And like I said, it is my experience. I will not take the names in Delhi temple only. I have listened people speaking from Vyasasana, wrong things about women. Whether it was a
That is
brahmachari or a
right.
sannyasi, I have heard it myself. That's why I was saying. I mean,
And
So we are not. I'm not saying that all the brahmacharis and sannyasis are
no.
perfect. So what I'm saying is all brahmacharis and sannyasis are not imperfect. Also. There are many of them I heard.
And
I
not
just associate.
imperfect either. Not everybody is imperfect. I'm not saying that. And the wonderful people, devotees, nothing against the devotional service. They're wonderful, very exalted devotees. But everybody has different consciousness level. That's all I'm saying.
Sometimes we make mistakes. Yeah. Sometimes I also speak something, then I didn't mean it, but still the words came out, and then it could be interpreted by somebody as fanaticism. So then later on I try to clarify, but then it just goes into people's minds, and then it stays there. It doesn't come out very easily. Sometimes I have regretted that. So why did I make this remark? Because it was misunderstood, or I didn't really mean it. Something came out, and then we regret. Could be that way also for some of these people.
True.
Unless
True.
we see a pattern. So when I see somebody is giving a lecture and he made a mistake, and if he is making the same mistake deliberately, another lecture, and we can see this is a pattern. So they are probably having a wrong understanding. That way we can conclude. But just by hearing one person speaking something wrong once, I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt. Anyway,
That's also one of the reasons one should read Prabhupada's books properly. I always come to that because ultimately our source is Prabhupada's books, nothing else.
recently, one of my god brother, he had served my Guru Maharaj in a very prominent way for some years now, and he is not initiated yet, but he has fallen back and he started even accusing Prabhupada. He said Prabhupada has mentioned so many lies in the Bhagavatam. So, which is very difficult to take it, but then we have to just address his concerns. What is he trying to say? So sometimes people turn against Prabhupada also, which means shaking your foundation. Because we have read Prabhupada's books very, very carefully so for so many years, and we have placed our faith in whatever Prabhupada. At least I can say, nobody can shake my faith in Prabhupada. Prabhupada did not have any materialistic motives, and he served Krishna unconditionally, uninterruptedly, and he has taught all of us to do the same thing, which is the ultimate goal of all the souls. But if somebody is coming and blaspheming Prabhupada like that, so it becomes very difficult, because now we are basing our, like you're saying, that's why we should read Prabhupada's books, so that our philosophy is very strong and we don't get carried away by somebody's opinions in a lecture or something like that. But what about handling these people? They seem to be insane in one way, because for many years they were accepting everything. Probably they didn't accept it. Outwardly they were just acting, and now they are turning against ISKCON. I don't mind if somebody is talking, blaspheming about ISKCON, because it's a huge institution. But if they will pick up each and every guru and finally Prabhupada also, and then they will start criticizing without any real basis, they are not they are not they are not aligned to any other philosophy also, and they are simply criticizing. So it's very difficult that how to defeat them, because they have now rejected even Prabhupada.
Well, then nothing can be done about that. If you reject Prabhupada, then where do you stand? Nowhere.
What to do with these people? Just we leave them. We don't even try anything, because I know if somebody is rejecting and blaspheming what Prabhupada has written, I don't think I can really handle him with any new philosophy of my own.
Well, then we have to go with that point also, that if in a war we find a lightly wounded soldier and a highly wounded soldier, who do we save first?
Right.
Then we just leave him alone. We can pray to Krishna for him, but that's about it.
Very gravely wounded people. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for always giving a very neutral viewpoint on all the objections also.
Thank you, Prabhu. I try myself. I'm struggling myself.
Thank you very much, sir. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so you all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.